Alright, so a couple disclaimers. First of all, this is my first video for public consumption on YouTube, so sorry about the quality. I'm not doing any editing. It's going to be a quick video about the LC2i line converter, basically. Couldn't find a whole lot of information online about how to hook this thing up. I never used one. I understood what it was used for, so I'm just going to run through quickly how I have mine hooked up, so if you're using the same one or something similar and you can't find the information that you need. So this is the instruction pamphlet from Audio Control. So obviously it's very straightforward. You know, your radio, tap the lines, goes into the speaker level on the LC2i, and then I only added just a sub because it's all I wanted to add to the car. So obviously you use this one. If you're going to use 2 amps then it would be the one down here. What I'm going to show you is the same thing except for without the high amps, but that's kind of self-explanatory. So on the LC2i, you have a ground, a 12 volt, remote in, remote out, and then you have the speaker line inputs. So I will actually show you mine that I have in the car and how I hooked it up. So this is your RCA jacks to take the sound from here to here. And then you have your ground here. Your power is the one right next to it. And then you have your remote in and then remote out. So I have nothing in the remote in. So there's no wire running from the fuses to the front of my car or from the battery with a fusible link to provide it a remote in. So the LC2i actually is turned on from the signal from the speaker wires that I'm tapping my factory sub with. And then the power, as you can, if you follow it, goes from the power on the amp, which of course runs to the battery, then comes back over and goes into the power. The ground does the exact same thing, and it's grounded to the amp's ground and goes over here. So when it receives a signal from the factory sub, it tells it it's okay to turn on, and then it powers it on, and then I have the remote out from the LC2i going to the remote in on the amp. So the LC2i kicks on, then it turns on the amp, and so there's about a 3-second delay before the sub actually kicks on, which is actually kind of nice, to be honest with you. So when I'm pulling in my driveway, or when I first get in the car, if I forget to turn it down, there's a little delay, so it gives me time to delay to turn it down so I don't piss my neighbors off and stuff like that. I'm not going to run the unit because it's kind of pointless. All you get is a bunch of feedback and distortion, but I want to just get a brief, if I can. Here, I'm going to go the other way of the trunk. Just want to show you exactly how I tapped into the factory speaker. So if you look right there, you can see that I have it tapped there, and it looks like this came out a little bit. So this is just a blade tap where you push down, the blade goes through the wire to make the connection. Now when I originally installed it, the LC2i was not coming on, and that's because I did not have the blade going down far enough to actually get into the speaker wire, so it wasn't getting a signal from here to send it to the LC2i. So this is a 2013 Hyundai Sonata with the Infinity navigation stereo system. That's the factory 8-inch sub. If you have a Sonata, the green is negative and the black is positive. Green negative, black positive, just so you know. I'm running a 10-inch Fosgate P3. It's a dual 10-inch or dual 2.5-inch voice coils. It's running at 4 ohms, which is about 300 watts RMS is what it's pulling from the amp. I'm running the Prime R500X1D, which peak power is 500 watts RMS at 2 ohms and a little bit over 300 at 4 ohms. Of course, the burst sheet says that it's 643 RMS, but yes, this speaker is not being powered 100%. It's exactly what I wanted to do, which was complement the factory system, because the 8-inch sub that's in the rear deck. Does not hit the lows very well, but it does a good job overall for bass, but just does not hit the lows. So that's the reason why I added this in. When you go to tune your system, you're going to have the gain all the way down on the amp, have the frequency all the way at 50 hertz, and then you can play with that to figure out what notes you want the sub to actually be hitting at. And then you want to make sure the EQ is all the way down. Unplug the RCA cables from the amp, turn on your radio, put it at the volume that you're going to generally listen to it. They normally say play it all the way up to distortion right before it starts to distort, which is what I did, but the Infinity system really doesn't start to distort even at 35. It's only some songs, so I normally listen to mine at 28, so that's where I put the volume. And then for if you don't have anything running out of the main output, then the middle knob which says main, turning it down or up does absolutely nothing. That is only to tune if you have anything coming out of this one. So what you, as you can see, if you look at it, the Acubase is pretty much all the way up, and then the actual bass is, let me see if I can get that, is pretty much all the way up as well. So you're going to turn the Acubase all the way up, and then you're going to turn the bass all the way up, and what you want to see is this maximize light come on, and I'll actually show that here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and unhook the sub so that I can show you guys that. So give me a second, I got to go around and start my car. So as you see how that maximize light was going on and off, and that's what you want. You don't want it to be on all the time, and that it'll come on basically when the bass notes hit, and when it gets that signal from that rear subwoofer. But you don't want it to be constant. So I actually, the bass knob on the LC2i will actually go to about a quarter of a turn more, and so will the Acubase. So you don't want the yellow light here to be constantly on. You want it should flicker as the bass notes, as that signal hits the speaker, which is what it does. So you may take it all the way up and then have to back it down just a little bit after you get it to where you want it. That's going to be the first thing. Tuning, if you don't do that, tuning the amp is not going to do shit for you. You're going to have to turn the gain all the way up to get the signal, and obviously because it's not reproducing the signal that you need. So that's the video. Try to keep it short. Like I said, my first video, so I do apologize for, you know, no editing, no special music, none of that, just pretty much straightforward. I'm in no means a professional. If you have no fucking clue of what you're doing, then go have it done by a professional. So I have mine set at like 7 on the gain, which I'm probably going to knock it down to 5, just so that when I turn the stereo down, it's not as bassy. Of course, I'm still playing with it. I've only had it installed for a couple days. I installed my wife's yesterday. She's enjoying it. I've installed total of 10 or 12 systems in different cars that I've owned and for friends and whatnot. Obviously, I wanted to keep navigation and all that, so that's the reason why I didn't want an aftermarket radio, and that's the reason why I went with the LC2i. It's a great product. I haven't had any issues with it so far. And then of course Rockford Fosgate's just one of the brands that I've used a lot, as well as JL. So you know, to each his own on the sound that you want, but I hope this video with the LC2i has helped, since there's not a lot of people that actually explain how it should be hooked up. If you want to run a constant to this for a remote, then you can do that by tying it into a fuse or running it straight off the battery with a fusible link, and you would put it in the remote in. I do like the fact that I don't have to run a remote from the front of the car to the back. I have one wire coming from the front of the car, and that is the power wire for the amp, and that is it. So it's actually kind of nice. If you're a 2013 Sonata owner looking for a spot to put a ground, a lot of people normally go behind this panel here to find the factory amp and all that. I actually found this spot here, which is for the back cover, goes directly into the chassis of the car. Obviously you can see there it's nice and sanded. I have to put some clear coat on it, but getting 100% voltage there when checking the ground when the car is on. So I hope this video has helped you guys. I will leave the comment section open if you have anything you want to ask. Like I said, I'm not a big YouTube person, but I just figured I would share my knowledge to help whoever needs help out there. Appreciate it.